Tampa, Florida will play host to the final UFC event of the 2024 calendar, and it will go down in the welterweight division. I should say the main event will go down between two top 10 welterweights. The number 6 ranked former interim champion, multi-time title challenger, Colby Covington, back for the first time since December 16th of 2023 in a title fight loss to Leon Rocky Edwards. In the blue corner will be the newly ranked top 10 fighter, Joaquin Buckley, on an insane 5-fight win streak at 170 pounds, looking to add another seasoned veteran and title challenger to his resume and launch himself into legitimate title discussions. I know the discussion for 2024 Male Fighter of the Year is all but a lock for Alex Pereira, maybe a lock for Ilia Topuria, depending on which side of the fence you sit on, but a sneaky play, a sneaky contender for Fighter of the Year in 2024, if he can win on Saturday night in Florida, would be Joaquin Buckley, because he started his year with a finish over Vicente Luque. He then beats Nursultan Ruziboev, a very dangerous prospect that was on the rise, and knocked out the former two-time title challenger Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, the first man to knock out Wonderboy since 2018, 2019, the Anthony Pettis Superman punch. New Mansa is in his prime right now at 30 years old, a 20-6 record overall, has 14 fights under his name in the UFC banner already, and he made his debut back in 2020, whereas Colby Covington has just 2 more fights in the UFC than him, and he debuted in the cage a decade ago. Buckley came into the UFC during the pandemic after a stint in the LFA and even a stint in Bellator, so he had a plethora of high-quality experience, even a fight against Logan Storley back in the day in Bellator before entering the UFC octagon. He started his career in the UFC with a loss to Kevin Holland before taking on Impa Kasanganay later that year and had one of the most memorable knockouts in UFC history and absolutely the knockout of 2020. He would suffer a pretty bad head kick loss to Alessio Di Chirico, but then go on a 3-fight win streak and then go on a 2-fight skid. Those were losses, however, in the middleweight division and to Nasruddin Imavov and Chris Curtis. But since making the change to the 170-pound weight class, he has been a perfect 5-0 with 3 knockouts in that stretch, and no win would be bigger at 170 pounds for Joaquin Buckley than Colby Covington this Saturday to solidify himself as a true title challenger in this dangerous 170-pound division that at the beginning of the year didn't seem all that exciting, but at the end of 2024 is maybe the hottest weight class going right now in the UFC. And for the number 6 ranked Colby Covington, as I said in the intro, his first fight back since December 16th of last year, so nearly 1 full year to the day since we had last seen chaos in the octagon, and that was a performance where he did not show us very much. Leon Rocky Edwards pretty much pitched a shutout from minute 1 to minute 25 in that title shot, and before that, we hadn't seen Colby since March of 2022, and that was a victory over Jorge Masvidal. But over the last 6 years, he has been involved in nothing short of title contention bouts. When he won the interim championship back in 2018 against Rafael dos Anjos, he would then beat Robbie Lawler, then finally have an undisputed title shot against Kamaru Usman, one of the best fights of that 2019 year when he got finished late in the 5th round. Then all he would have to do is win one more fight against his rival Tyron Woodley to get launched in for a second crack at Kamaru Usman's title, and he would falter once more. Then came the fight with Jorge Masvidal that we previously mentioned, where he got a decision victory, and then came his 3rd crack at Undisputed Gold, and he once again would falter, this time at the hands of Leon Rocky Edwards, who had dethroned Kamaru Usman. Colby will go down, if he finishes his career having not won the undisputed title, as one of the best fighters in UFC history to not be an undisputed champion, but he does have the moniker of at least getting to the interim championship, but he did not ever quite reach the absolute epitome and pinnacle of the sport, and can he do it now at 36 years old with a lot less activity than how he started his UFC run? We've seen him fight 5 times in the last 5 years, whereas Joaquin Buckley will enter his 4th fight in just 2024. So these guys, in terms of career trajectories, couldn't be more opposite. For Colby, I feel like he's still just trying to keep his head above water, just tread the water of the title contention discussion at 170 pounds, whereas Joaquin Buckley, with a win, catapults himself as fresh blood into the title race, which holds a lot of fresh blood, including Ian Machado Gary, who just suffered his first ever professional defeat last week to Shavkat Rakhmonov, who will be next for Belal Muhammad. Oh, Belal Muhammad, a new champion who dethroned Leon Edwards. Oh, Jack Della Maddalena, a hot rising prospect that's about to return from injury in 2025. There is a lot of fresh blood in this 170-pound division, in the top 10 and in the top 5 of the title discussion, and New Mansa, Joaquin Buckley, can insert himself as well. And the best part about this 5-fight win streak that Buckley is on is that each fight we've seen him evolve his skill set. We've seen him use grappling quite a bit, especially in the win against Ruziboev. His knockout power is on full display against Stephen Thompson. His ground and pound victories over Vicente Luque. He is really coming into his all, and it's fitting being that he is 30 years old, right in the middle of those prime years. I do believe that we could see a future title challenger on our hands here with Joaquin Buckley. Dare I say, maybe even a future UFC champion. But the road to that title starts in Tampa, Florida, if he can get the biggest victory of his career and beat a second straight title challenger, this time Colby Chaos Covington. And for Colby, we know what he does best. It is his wrestling and it is his grappling. Now, we haven't seen a ton of people offensively wrestle with Joaquin Buckley, so that could be a big question for Buckley to answer here in terms of his full skill set. Is his defensive grappling up to par with his offensive grappling? That could be the biggest question that we see answered in this main event, and if he answers that call successfully, he will absolutely come out as the winner of this fight, because on the feet, I just don't see how Colby could have the upper hand. He has decently sharp striking with a jab, so on and so forth, but that's obviously not Colby's bread and butter, where Joaquin Buckley is very quick, very long, very rangy, and has something that Colby does not have in the stand-up realm, and that is one-punch knockout power. So be sure to let me know in the comments below who will be victorious in the final UFC main event of 2024. Will it be Colby Covington keeping himself in the title discussions with a victory over Joaquin Buckley, or will it be Buckley extending his unbeaten welterweight record to 6-0, none bigger than this one here over the former interim champion that is Colby Covington? Give me your predictions, give me your bets in the comments below. And now let's transition from the main event into the rest of UFC Tampa, because there are definitely some very fun stylistic clashes on this card. And we start in the co-main event, the 41-year-old Cub Swanson still going at it in the octagon, and he'll be taking on Billy Quarantillo. We've seen Killer Cub in the octagon just once in 2024, and that was a razor-close split decision loss that he had to Andre Fili back in June at UFC 303 International Fight Week. And in 2023, we also only saw him fight one time, but that was a victory, and he did that against Hakeem Dawodu. Now he is back to see if he can make it a 1-1 year in 2024, or if he will fall to 0-2. And for the 36-year-old Billy Quarantillo, we've also only seen him once in this year, and he also suffered a loss, but much more convincingly, as he got ran through by Youssef Zalal en route to a submission in the second round. Youssef Zalal is on the absolute best career resurgence of 2024, undoubtedly, but I did not expect that type of performance against Billy Q, who had been battle-tested time and time again, including a victory in 2023 that he had against Damon Jackson. Billy Quarantillo has yet to lose back-to-back fights in the UFC, and dating back to September of 2020, a victory over Kyle Nelson. If you go from there to present day, he has literally won a fight, lost a fight, won a fight, lost a fight. That has been the consistency of his career. Can he right the ship? Can he get back in the win column to finish off 2024, to start 2025? These two are absolutely some of the most fun fighters to watch in this 145-pound weight class. Who gets the dub and rights the ship in their 2024 year? We have a main event in the welterweight division, which has big implications considering the title is about to be defended in their weight class and just had a #1 contendership bout last weekend. And we have a big one here in the flyweight division between two top 15 fighters, because Alexandre Pantoja just successfully defended his title for the third straight time this past weekend at UFC 310 as well. It is the number 9 ranked star boy Manel Kape taking on the Bulldog number 12 ranked Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva has won 4 fights in a row. All 4 of them are by way of finish. 3 in the second round, 1 in the first round. The most recent was in July of this year when he finished Cody Durden. Whereas Manel Kape is coming off of a loss in July of this year, and that was to Muhammad Mokaev. We know all the drama that surrounded that fight. We know the drama in the aftermath of that fight, Mokaev being released from the UFC. But heading into that bout, Manel Kape had tallied off 4 consecutive victories. At one point, it had seemed that the winner of that fight would be next for Alexandre Pantoja. That is not how that played out. Pair that with some of the inconsistencies that we've seen from Manel Kape over the last few years in terms of being able to get into the cage, whether that be weight misses and injuries on his side of things keeping him from getting in, or weight misses and injuries against his opponents. Either way you slice it, we have not seen him fight as much as we would like. He started out hot. He debuted in 2021 and fought 4 times, but since then has fought once in 2022, once in 2023, and once this year. Obviously will be twice, assuming we get to the cage Saturday night. The good news here for both of these fighters is that Alexandre Pantoja, the champion in this flyweight division, has quite literally cleared out everyone there is to fight. He's even beaten Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval twice. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the winner of this fight between the number 9 ranked Kape and the 12 ranked Silva could potentially be next for a flyweight title shot. We know that Pantoja called out the retired Demetrius Johnson. We know that Kai France is sitting there. That is the only fresh matchup for the champion that is Pantoja. And then we have these two paired to fight just 1 week removed from when the champion fought. I think with a convincing enough victory, especially if it's a big time finish, the winner here could get into a title shot. And I think definitely if you are Manel Kape, being that you are from Rizin, you have big victories. You were a champion over there in that promotion. Kaya Sakura came over from Rizin and just challenged against Alexandre Pantoja. I do believe that if Kape gets a big victory and a big finish, he can slide himself into the next title shot in this division. But same could be said for Bruno Silva, who is on one of the biggest win streaks at 125 pounds. Vitor Petrino is returning on this card, coming back from his first ever professional loss suffered at the hands of Anthony Smith back in May at UFC 301, where he got submitted in just 2 minutes of their bout. He is taking on Dustin Jacoby, who is an electric, exciting kickboxer, but is coming into this having lost 4 of his last 5 bouts. The winner here will definitely reinsert themselves into the top 15 discussions of the light heavyweight division, and I look for the winner to get a convincing knockout victory. This fight is definitely going to slide under the radar, and it is in the 135-pound bantamweight division where we have Adrian Yanez returning, and he is taking on the 16-0 undefeated Daniel Marcos from Peru. Daniel Marcos is a 2022 Dana White Contender Series alum, and he is 3-0 in the UFC thus far with 1 no contest against Ariki Long. He's coming off of a victory over John Castaneda in June of this year, a decision. Of the 16 victories that he has, 8 of them are by knockout, and 8 of them have gone the distance for the 31-year-old Marcos. And Yanez is one of the most fun fighters in the outside looking in of the bantamweight rankings, and he is coming off of a victory against Vinicius Salvador, where he finished him in the first round of their fight back in May. That was a big bounce-back victory for Adrian, as he had dropped 2 previous bouts to Jonathan Martinez and Rob Font, both by TKO finish. And oh boy, do we have a fun, underrated fight in the lightweight division. 2 men on the outside looking in, and I believe the winner here gets a ranked opponent in their next bout. It is Drakkar Klose, who is on a 4-fight win streak at 36 years old, taking on Joel Alvarez, Spain's finest at 31 years of age, right in his prime, 21-3 with a 100% finish rate. Joel Alvarez is 6-2 since entering the UFC back in 2019, and the only 2 losses in his debut, Damir Ismagulov, and a knockout to Arman Tsarukyan, who, by the way, is challenging for the title next month. He's coming off 2 consecutive victories over Mark Jacasey and Elvis Brenner. The one over Brenner came back in August. Drakkar Klose, most recent victory was in May at UFC 301, where he beat Joaquin Silva via decision. And to be fair, the only loss for Klose in the last 6 years was to Beneil Dariush, and we all know how insane that fight was. And I want to talk about a pair of ladies' fights to finish off the discussion, one in the flyweight division and one in the strawweight division. The one at 125 is between Jamey-Lyn Horth and Miranda Maverick. The 34-year-old Canadian Jamey-Lyn Horth is 7-1 overall, 2-1 in the UFC, and an LFA alum. She's coming off of a victory just last month in November against Ivana Petrovic, and the only loss of her career was against Veronica Hardy, who is on a bit of a career resurgence in her own right, and that came via split decision. And we all know about the 27-year-old Miranda Maverick, who debuted back in the 2020 days at just 23 years old, has fought 10 times in the octagon so far, and has garnered a 7-3 record. The only losses are to the best fighters in the world at 125 pounds. Macy Barber, a very close split decision that many people believe Miranda Maverick won. A loss to Erin Blanchfield, a top 3 contender in this 125-pound weight class. And most recently, in June of last year, a loss to Jasmine Jasudavicius, a top 15 player in this division that also hails from Canada. But since that loss to Jasmine, Miranda has tallied off 3 consecutive victories, and they are all absolute one-sided performances, including a submission over Priscilla Cachoeira and decisions over Andrea Lee and Dione Barboza. Now she looks to make it a 3-0 year in 2024 and get back into the discussions of legitimate top 15 players at 125 pounds. And in the strawweight division, 2 ladies that I was very high on, both coming from the Dana White Contender Series. In the red corner is the undefeated 8-0 Josefine Knutsson, known for her very high-level technical kickboxing. She won on the 2023 season of Contender Series and has won both of her UFC fights thus far, a decision over Marnik Mann and a decision in June against Julia Pilastri. She is only 28 years old, and she is very technical, very precise, and a very high IQ fighter. I look for this to be a very fun fight. Knutsson is taking on Piera Rodriguez, who fought on the 2021 season of Dana White Contender Series. She started her UFC career 2-0 with victories over Sam Hughes and Kay Hansen, but has suffered back-to-back losses. One to Jillian Roberson in April of last year, who has come into her all at 115 pounds, and most recently in May, a loss to Ariane Carnelosi, but that's not your typical loss. It was a loss due to disqualification because she was headbutting her opponent. So can she bounce back from her 2-fight skid? She is also known for her kickboxing and technical prowess, but does have a little bit more of the advantage when it comes to the grappling and wrestling side of things. So that's what she's going to look to do. I think Piera will not want to strike with Josefine, will look to grapple, and if Josefine can hold up in the defensive grappling realm, hold off the takedowns, I look for her to pick apart Piera and get a big decision victory that can get her into the rankings come her next bout. So give me all of your thoughts, all of your opinions, and your predictions for UFC Tampa, the final event of 2024, in the comments below. Who gets the victory in the top 10 clash and the welterweight division, and what are some of your other low-key bangers that could happen throughout the remainder of the main card and prelims? If you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Every single week, I preview and discuss the best storylines and what is at stake for all of the best bouts heading into each card. I recap the most meaningful results from every card, and I give my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements. You can join the community on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok, and you can follow on your favorite audio listening platform where every Monday and Friday podcast episodes release on Spotify, Apple, and more. Have a great weekend, enjoy the fights, and I will see you in the next video.